walk around a city with an empty next line baby carriage.
Walk me through a day in the life of you.
What general year?
Like right now.
Okay, right now, um, on fumes, exhausted, taking naps in midday, which is a new thing for me. Um, then panicking over assignments, trying to remember all the assignments because it's quarantine, and what does time mean anymore? Um, then just like trying to develop some semblance of a schedule and trying to actually keep organized and my room decluttered and not
Same.
let it be a monstrous pigsty. Oh, and then snuggle with my Ollie and Tully.
I feel that time isn't real anymore.
Hmm.
Every week I make a schedule, and every week I'm like, well, I'll just make a new one next week, and here we are. But
Yeah, the buzzing in the background's going to probably get louder until it doesn't.
it's okay. I honestly don't hear it, so
Good.
okay. So we're here now, but take me back to like what home is. Like, take us there. What would we do? What would we see? What was it like growing up at home?
So I was born and raised in Baton Rouge. I was homeschooled throughout my entire life, except college, of course. Um, but it was like this, it was called a Becca Academy, and it was these DVDs that you would use, and you would like, it's already pre-recorded lessons in a classroom. So you do that, and then you just fill out your textbook with information on it. In like, I have ADHD, dyslexia, so uh, my math skills were not there. And so what ended up happening is I kept having to redo the math problems until I got it right. And that's actually kind of a recommended way to fix dyslexia, just repeatedly doing the tasks until it becomes corrected. So there was that. My mother always tried to get us educational stuff. There was this leapfrog spelling thing where you would just twist it and to you spelled words.
Okay.
And yeah, so it was like very physically interactive. I think it was good for those who were like ADHD. And so we were forced to do that every time like we were taking on tries anywhere. Um, Occasional trips to the zoos. Animals were like really big. And then I actually was super into Animal Planet and National Geographic when I was young, when cable TV was still a thing. Um, and for our graduation, we basically went and took the GD. We had some online courses which had feedback from live instructors um, close to that time, so we could be more prepared with more up to date stuff. But we all passed first time around.
Nice. So, did you have like any favorite Animal Planet shows or?
Oh, yes, Meerkat Manor. If you have not watched it, I recommend it. It does
I,
get sad sometimes.
I definitely remember growing up and watching that, especially in the morning.
Oh, yes. Oh, me and my brother would, that would be loud. That was our soap opera. And we just gossip about it.
See, I'm an only child, so it would just be me and my grandma's by myself watching it.
Uh, and I say these cute things, but understand that when you have siblings, especially when you're homeschooled, you have no other rivals. So, yeah, it becomes like that.
They become your rivals.
Hmm. Oh, very much so. I cannot, ex- I cannot quite explain the depth of trash calling.
Yeah. So, what was that like competing with your siblings in a school setting?
Irritating, especially since they were okay. So Jim was 3 years older, and
Mhm.
Bill was 8. Um, there was no competing with Bill because he was like basically far advanced. But with Jim, I beat him at spelling. I'm better at spelling than he is. He, we both had similar math issues, so it's like a hit or miss with that.
Mhm.
Uh, but really, once I started getting to college, because I clearly was in college last, and started bringing the A's, that's when they started to get real salty. Yeah. Oh, did I mention the eldest was put in charge of checking our homework? And by God, he loved marking big fat red X's.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess I bet it was like a sense of pride, kind of like that paper at X, like yes, I can get back at her or whatever.
Yeah, a bit like that. I mean, he was a bit mean spirited gamer type.
Mm, I hear that. But now we're in college, so things are hopefully more fair because he can't really grade your homework. But with college, why did you choose your major, and why have you stuck with it to graduation?
So when I first like started out, I actually uh, started with liberal arts, the most general degree possible. Um, I always had a thing for arts, and it was like you take liberal arts to figure things out, and it was based about priorities. If I had to choose like something to do for the rest of my life, it would be writing, regardless of anything else. And I always loved books and fiction. I can't draw to save my soul. Uh, I could learn, but that's never been quite my talent. It was something I did like a few. I remember I was 5, and like my mother, was attempting at writing, but she never quite fell through with it. So that was my introduction to writing. I don't think, I think if she hadn't, I wouldn't have pursued it. Um, and so when I was 5, wrote the worst book ever. It was really short. It was really garbage. Definitely threw that away. Years later, when I was 10, I got my own laptop, well, computer, not laptop. Laptop was a little bit too advanced for that time.
Mhm.
Started writing it again. It put it off because it just wasn't good, and I didn't know how to make it good. Um, Fast forward a little bit more, and then I was tasked in school with writing a dream. It was the first piece of creative writing that I like really wrote, and that was actually good. And I was like, okay, I can do something with this.
Mhm.
Um, and then like when I was like late teens, on and off again, on and off again, on and off again type things, but nothing ended up like being solid. Go into college, kind of explore that a little bit, bounce around. And eventually, I took some actual classes that had to do with fiction. So I started writing fiction more. I started taking classes, starting classes outside of college. Um, and I started progressively getting more motivated to write. Fast forward a little bit more. When I started to go to LSU, that's when I was definitely serious into writing. I was at BRCC before, then I went to LSU.
Mhm.
Um, I still had issues. Then, then, like it was a couple years ago, that was like the really big pivotal moment. Uh, when I started taking my capstone, like my advanced classes, then I
Mhm.
was like, these are like the definite issues I have in character development and voice, but I couldn't quite figure out how to fix it because workshops weren't long enough and perhaps personalized enough to address you specifically. So eventually I took Professor Tusa's class of novel writing. he gave me good insight. So I started seeing him like after class, in between classes, and things like that, and had him really go over my writing. Um, and he basically broke down the issues. I'm like, oh my god, I could totally see that. Why didn't I notice this before? uh, and so he has like this workshop outside of like LSU, and I took that, and it has improved my writing so much. So I'm like in the actual good place now. I just have to finish my product.
I know it's going to be awesome because you're doing it.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I can't wait to read it whenever it's like done and finished and ready for the world.
Hopefully, it'll be within like a year.
Mhm.
Uh, It's got to be like about 100 keywords, so that's kind of lengthy.
Yeah, but I still have faith that it'll be awesome. So if we could like rewind back to the start of spring 2020, like before all this happened, what were your thoughts about like the rest of the year in January versus in March when COVID kind of started creeping in versus in May when it was pretty much here?
So spring 2020s, with the Delta Journal, that's when the Delta Journal gets produced. So I was really focused on that, trying to implement plans that I thought about the previous year for Delta. Um, a lot of fundraising and things like that. Um, and I thought like, okay, this is going to be a busy year. This is going to be a busy year. It's going to be fine. It's going to be busier, but it's going to be fine. I was taking my capstone in fiction, so I was excited about that. Um, I actually got sick in February, pre when COVID like kind of came to Louisiana. It was pre that, pre Mardi Gras. Um, and so at that point, I was like, I cannot get sick like this again because I skipped classes, and yeah, that was it was bad. Uh, so I was like, really, don't touch me, get away, get away, get away. This is affecting everything. So when COVID came around and it was like, I did research on it. And then Mike the doctor, I I think that's literally his YouTube. He's that doctor. His name is Mike. He has a YouTube channel, general practitioner, and things like that. He started talking about COVID. Started talking about like how airborne diseases, transmit and everything like that. The moment I learned like the textbook version of how the disease spread, I knew it was going to be extremely widespread, like Spanish flu, just because when people cough, they usually cough on something, so
Mhm.
it like gets their hands, and then they touch everything. So then you have particles everywhere, and then other people touch that. And people don't clean their hands, like according to the CDC. I didn't, and I was horrified after I learned that. Uh, So that was like me going, "Oh, this is gonna be bad." And so I was freaking out about that, but then I still had a journal to do. And I was actually kind of grateful for the journal because it gave me an outlet towards my anxiety that was tangible.
Mhm.
So that was like, okay, things got scarier. I mean, what else could I say about the political climate and, it all going to absolute hell, and that America might end up becoming a monarchical dictatorship. So that's where I am now.
Yeah, hopefully, election day is Tuesday. We'll have results, and either way, we'll move forward and at least make a better future for ourselves.
Hmm.
Worst case scenario.
Or, war. I wouldn't
Yeah,
be against that depending on, which particular orange gets there.
yeah, unfortunately. But either way, like eventually we'll have that like sunny day.
Yeah. Though I say that, I actually have a good feeling Biden's going to get it.
Yeah, the numbers look interesting.
I have never seen so many people like early voting. Never seen so many.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I'm a strong believer in the idea of like every problem has its place eventually. So if this is all like a way to get people to be more civically engaged,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a good positive, I don't know, lens to everything we've been through. It's still like
Yeah.
it's terrible, but like it's like one way to like look at what's coming out of it.
Wake up call, essentially.
Mm-hmm. But lost my place on the page. No. Okay, cool. So like in spring, you're scheduling your last fall. And what was that process like knowing that like COVID is kind of creeping in?
Mm.
And did that factor into how you picked your classes or anything?
So I there were like some classes I needed, so I took that. I stalked my professors on their social media platforms to see whether or not, there were for masks, anti-masks, and if they were going to like, I, you know, if they're pro stay at home or not. That was like my first order of business. Um, and then after that, I really, really, really waited until the very last minute to, like pay off like the classes and things like that. Because if LSU did not have the option of like stay at home the entire time, I was not going. I live with elderly parents and I don't want to be the reason they die.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. My mom helps out our neighbor's mom who has heart failure. So having to work on campus, it's
Hmm.
like I don't want to bring this back home.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and I can't like go live at LSU because I have dogs. So it's like I was so prepared to like skip semester or two, however long it took.
I feel that.
Yeah, but it didn't happen. So like they actually had online classes, so that's good.
I'm thankful. And then spring looks like it'll be the same too, which is
Yes.
pretty interesting.
I mean, I think it's a safer option
Mhm.
for everybody.
So actually thinking about spring, like how do you feel knowing that you're kind of going into the last semester and it might just be online with no graduation or anything like that?
I hate graduation ceremonies. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. And I'm so glad I have introverted parents because then I don't have to do that.
Mhm.
So that was like, yay, just deliver my diploma to me and I'm good.
So you're happy that you won't have to even deal with it.
I, I, I remember last year in Joe's class and everybody, like it was spring and everyone was like talking about the graduation. It's like, oh, the gowns and the other things that you have to do. It's like, why? It's like, just give me my diploma. If you served like, pizza, donuts, I'd be there.
Yeah.
But they don't. So it's like,
Mhm. I feel that. I'm not a fan of crowds, so I have like mixed feelings about a graduation. But also, there's like a family thing where it's like, okay, mommy will be proud.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I feel that. So kind of, and we talked about it with like the election, but this summer was really weird because we had lockdown, but then we have civil unrest, misinformation campaigns, and all these like very big and almost scary things happening at once in like 1 week. So, with all that, on a personal level, was this summer any different for you than summer of 2019?
Definitely. I did spend the summer writing, spent last summer writing too. Um, So that was like I mostly had to tune out the news because too much of it prevented me from writing. Um, you can't write if you're like fearful for your life, generally speaking, or
Mhm.
if you're so depressed, you're like, oh my God, life is what is the purpose of life? Uh, so I had to tune that out from time to time, like check in. I would say once every 3 days for the updates, and I really binge those updates, and then I had to like put it off again. Ooh, definite high anxiety.
Yeah. And what was your summer last year like? 2019.
To be honest, I can't even remember anymore.
That's fair. That's fair. It's been
I
a
th-
very long year.
I think yes, I'm positive. Me and my mother basically did these little tours around Baton Rouge, like seeing different locations, like visiting the swamps and everything around Baton Rouge, local stuff, local visiting stuff. Nothing too crazy, but just like we should actually do that stuff, like go to the Blue Bond Swamp Center and like look at things there. So we did that.
Do you have like, I know my summers, even before this, were pretty the same. I'd be at home or I'd go to my mom, just like do the same old. Did you have like a summer routine esque, or were they all like pretty different?
I mean, like none of my summers would basically be the same. I generally try to work on writing and like whatever projects. That's I guess the general rhythm. Um, I guess one project was summer 2019. I was working on making a new Delta website, so I did that. Yeah, so I'm proud because that was like the first time I used Wix to make a real website. So, um, lots of research studying. Previous summers when I was say in grade school, I mostly played games. It was like the big thing. So, Pokemon, Nintendo GameCube, and that was the thing. That was like great. That was great stuff. Occasionally playing my brother's like PlayStation, Xbox. Hardcore gamer. He had basically it all. He had handheld, whatever boxes you can imagine. He didn't have Nintendo GameCube. That was me. And then PC and PC games for sure.
Nice. I'm a PC person myself, but I do have a ton of handheld Nintendo stuff: GameCube, DS, 3DS, all of them. Uh, Losing track of my screens. So, with this like new summer, how did you get ready for coming back to campus, or in like this case, kind of zooming in to campus with all the new additions and everything changing?
Well, honestly, there wasn't really much to prepare for because there wasn't any guarantee of what the class was going to be. So I really, really, really intently stalked my professors. They don't know this though. I mean, one of them I accepted my Facebook friendship, but I don't think she knew I signed up for a class at the time.
Mhm.
So that like every day I would check and check and check and check. One person did not have Facebook or updated one, so I had to figure out where they were on Twitter. It was kind of weird that I was talking to them like this, but you have to do what you have to do. Um, and like actually in spring last year I gained a lot of weight, so I spent some time in the summer losing it, and also like walking the dogs and things like that. Something which normally didn't have time for with classes.
I hear that. Same. Summer is always like trying to reverse all the stress of the school year in
Hmm.
preparation for the next school year. But we made it. We're here, you know,
Yes.
and with all that like research and getting ready for the semester, What did the first week of classes look like? Now being on Zoom and everything.
Uh, I have one class that's like wants us to read 15 books.
Wow.
I mean, they're supposed to be short reads. Some of them are supposed to be short reads. As she said, like they're short reads, 100 to like 150 pages, but it's like that. So I'm like, okay, sure, I guess I could do that. Then another class wants to read the same amount. I'm like, why? Why did you think this was going to be a good thing for all of us? Do you not know that we cannot pay attention as much anymore? That the most part we're going to be reading the news.
Mhm.
Okay, so that, and I actually don't. I also only have one class that has like tests, but they're open book tests. So yay.
We love
Uh,
it.
yeah. So basically, writing my stuff at kind of advance a little bit because it's based upon theme,
Mhm.
like the questions they ask about the quotes. So that's like better. Um, but reading's killer. Plus a daily response as opposed to like a weekly response. And it's not like a response. Like you could say, oh, I thought this was interesting. It's like they want you to be more analytical. It's like, dear God. So that, oh, and that one class that has like the open, you know, tests has pop-up quizzes. Pop quizzes. Yeah. No one's favorite. No one's favorite. It was worse the first time he did it because he read it off his screen without like screen sharing or anything. And we didn't get to see what the questions were. We just had to listen to him and then answer. Thankfully, he he's a nice dude, so he listened to our request to change that.
Yeah.
Um, but like overall, it was going to be interesting. I also have poetry with Professor Laura Mullen. Um, and no, I'd never been really much of like a poetry person. I took a Laura Glenham's class a while back ago. So I'm like, this should be fairly short as far as like the writing stuff goes. It is. It's the most reasonable class.
Mhm.
Um, and then I'm taking now this probably is going to blow your mind. Milton literature, but
Okay.
it's eco-critical focus.
Ooh.
Yes, it has been so fascinating. I cannot express to you how interesting watermelons are now. It's taught by Chris Barrett,
Mhm.
fantastic teacher, fantastic content. Um, I've I have learned so much more about the environment now than ever before. It's just like it's the most fascinating approach to Milton I would have never thought of. It's completely new. This is the first time it's like being taught like this.
So what does that look like? Like I'm not too familiar with Milton, so can you like give an example?
Okay, so basically, everybody knows him for like Paradise Lost, right?
Gotcha. Mhm.
Okay, so we study his previous works, the works that build up to Paradise Lost, which is like his ultimate baby. Um, and
Mhm.
so we examine his works, and so we go through like what does it say about environment, and some of his early work, especially the ones that he like delivers speech to people, it definitely like gendered the environment and definitely like racially profiled the environment. There was like definitely dark and light and things like that. It's kind of disturbing because Milton was the dude that inspired the founding fathers of America. He was actually like labeled first American. Yeah, so some of the stuff learned about there, it makes sense. He also was very pro white guys should be educated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has this whole thing of education. He wants you to work scholarly study 20 hours every day.
Yeah.
So he's very rigorous. I wondered if that was like his childhood. If it was, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So it's that it's like but eco-critical isn't just about the environment, it's also about feminism, racism, ableism, which is what we recently covered as well. And then the environment, social constructs, classism, all that encompasses eco-critical theory.
I kind of wish I took that class now, but I'm in Shakespeare and I do love it. So
Yeah. I mean, it's like they're both good, but you can't take them all at once.
yeah, so my classes are the same way. I have to watch like a movie every week for one class, read a
Hmm.
book. I'm in Dr. Connick's British, not British, American Lit class. So he does
Mm.
daily writings, which are like analytical prompts, and he's very hard on them.
Oh my
So,
god.
so
Oh.
but
Oh, he was the one I saw rate my professors. I didn't take. I took Costello.
it's just he's very specific about what he wants. He's not forgiving. He's very unforgiving.
Oh,
But
he's like Milton.
he, I feel like he'd have some very interesting insight on Milton, considering our class we got on Ben Franklin and the idea of comparing his like self-made journey to like Equiano or Douglas and like what that means to compare the two. And he's like, well, actually, it's like okay, this is a very touchy conversation. But okay, so we're here now though. How
Yeah.
has like your workflow versus the first week changed in comparison to now that it's like week, I don't know, 11 or 12?
Oh, it feels like midterms every week or
Yeah,
every other week.
I feel that.
Everyone historically feels that now. There's one evil professor that does like 6 tests. I know. I know. I know. Oh, and they're not even spaced evenly. It's not my class, it's somebody else's, but God, I feel for her.
Okay. I was about to be worried for you, like, oh no, not
Not my class. I made sure I didn't take one of those classes.
same. Same. I tried to take easier ones, but we don't all succeed.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was a cat peeking through my window.
Oh, kitty kitty.
Stray cats just hang out in my building.
That's awesome.
No. But so catches up to grad school preparations and what that looks like and what the next steps are right now.
So, I know like, so we basically took that grad school uh workshop thingy that was recently a while back, where grad students kind of answer your question about MFA programs. So that kind of gave me some pointers of, like, say, working on the personal statement and who you should be asking for, say, recommendations. And specifically, like, it doesn't even have to be a professor, just whoever is the people who are most familiar with your work. You want them to like recommend you. So I knew 2 people. Actually, my poetry professor this semester is like one person who I want to recommend because she has seen my best writing. My previous fiction professors have not seen my best writing because I've only been able to produce it this semester. And then my other professor, Tusa, who I've been taking like workshops with, I'm going to ask him for a recommendation. We're actually currently working on getting my writing sample done for like an MFA. So that's like the big thing. So I have like 6 pages of okay content. I need to make it to 20.
Mhm.
Um, and so those are the major things. already know which one I want to go to, because there's literally only 2 options for popular fiction, which is another name for like genre fiction, fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, whatever. It's basically it. And it's Stone Coast in Maine.
Oh,
Yes. It is a low residency program. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do, but could you explain it anyway?
All right. So basically, twice a year, you go for like a little over a week, and then the rest of the time, you're not required to like stay on campus. You like go home and just do it online.
Which is probably perfect for a pandemic.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I was thinking this is like the best possible thing for a pandemic.
And kind of building on that, did COVID like had you started planning before COVID hit, or how has
Yeah.
it kind of played in?
Prior to COVID hitting, I took business writing in like two areas. Like I took technical writing, I took business writing, but they end up being the exact same thing. So I took it in two different professors with two different like mentalities. Professor Tusem, Professor Thomas,
Mhm.
or Professor Thomas. Uh, and so like they want us to like research schools and things like that, and program study and stuff like that. So that's what I did. Um, and so I looked about potential grad schools. I'm like MFA programs, MFA programs, and for most MFA programs, they spit upon you if you dare cross a genre book over their threshold. It's sad, but the snobbery is real. Um, so it was like, well, where can I find one that's like really pro this? It's like you need to find something that's popular fiction. That's the label they're using as opposed to genre, popular fiction. And there literally is only two. I mean, kind of three, but the third one is like some sort of I don't know if it's Christian or evangelist or whatever. I'm like, can't be you. Uh, yeah, not with like focused of a lot of my stuff being like witchcraft and things like that. It's like no, not you. Um, so there was one. I don't know if it was like in Arizona or something like that. It's gonna. It was in Colorado. That's gonna be like pretty much a no. I was like hoping for Maine, cold weather, Stephen King country. That'd be nice to like go to. Um, I don't know if like residency is possible there, but residency sounds nice as well at this particular moment. I've never lived in like that much snow, but at this point, I'm willing to try.
It's always good. Trying is really all it starts. So that being said, when are your what are your next deadlines?
You mean like for applying?
Like just
So on their website, they say apply whenever, like apply early.
yeah,
So like my whole thing is like I actually want to get it in, um, not this spring, at least not until like because their website still doesn't say anything about like the details of meeting in person. So that's kind of like the harsh thing. They're going to require you to meet in person, but it's like it's going to be a long period of time. And what is that going to look like? Are they going to regulate masks? Are they not going to regulate masks? Things I don't know, and they won't tell you.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to end up like prepping my stuff, applying in after this semester, just applying in generally, and then they'll probably review it sometime in fall, but that'll be enough time to get me situated because they say apply first, then you can figure out your writing sample and stuff later. So that's where I'm at.
Gotcha. Is that for both schools? Like they both are just rolling acceptance?
Just Stone Coast.
Gotcha. And what about the second one?
I don't know. I'm not interested in going to Colorado. Um, Mostly because like the fires that recently has happened. Yeah, it's like something you have to consider. Maine has been strong so far, and Stowe Coast is actually quite into social justice, like super into social justice, community expanding voices and trying to influence. They have that as like their philosophy, which is really good. That's
Yeah,
like, I want a clear philosophy like that. I didn't know that I needed that until this year, but I definitely do.
definitely shows like the heart of the school. Like, what do you
Yes.
care about? And now we know.
Yes. And they've just been more impassioned since 2020 began because I'm following them on social media. Yeah, social media stalking is kind of like a hobby.
It's a great skill to have.
It's like the new way of like amateur investigative reporting, investigative um, detective work.
Yeah, you're coming prepared, and not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what Nancy Drew would have been like if she had been a young millennial.
Oh my gosh. And Nancy Drew in 2020, what would
I
it look like?
Yes, I would have. Man, I would have paid the same price as like that Milan movie to see that.
Just to like see what people envision.
Oh yes, oh yes.
So did Stillcrows like did their requirements change as COVID progressed, or
No, no. It's basically the exact same thing as before. Um, you can't possibly like add stuff like saying, I'm really into social justice community stuff, but it's like optional. But it's neat that they give you the option that like, if you're into this type of stuff, let us know. We can hook you up basically. um, but nothing's really changed. I don't know about like if their instructor roster has changed. It might have. I'm presuming it has. So I'm just gonna have to kind of see what that will eventually look like. But so far, they usually get drama specific instructors and current ones. They always try to get current.
yeah, I know UT kind of is similar to trying to get updated, especially with screenwriting with all the different contests that people win.
Mhm.
So, but did you have to take the GRE for it, or would
You
that?
do not. You do not. They specifically say you do not. Yes, so that was great. I had no idea what charity was either. It says like, yeah, you don't have to do it. They mostly care about your writing. It's like the number one thing, your writing sample. And if you're writing a novel, like me, if you're going to give them a novel sample, like me, they want you to do a synopsis.
Mhm,
So those two things are going to really matter
mhm.
um, when I like send it. And that's like the first thing that they care about is the writing sample. Then they care about recommendations and then personal statement and whatnot.
That's good because writing honestly is the most important part.
Yeah.
Like, I know some schools they still require the GRE score, and it's like, but
It's just bizarre.
yeah. So one more question,
Mhm.
and then I will relinquish all your time back because I really do appreciate this so much. What do you have coming up like this next week that you might be looking forward to?
Ooh, I definitely have a poetry workshop where everybody's going to be looking at my poem and
Ooh.
commenting on it. Yeah. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with what interactive poetry is, but apparently Yoko Ono, yes, the one of the Beatles, uh, was very famous for her interactive poetry. And one of them was like, it's basically kind of like a command, like somebody can do this, but also it's actually a poem. And she says, walk around a city with an empty, next line, baby carriage.
Hmm,
Yeah. That's like, I was like, whoa, that's kind of powerful. And somebody could actually do that. It's like suggesting, you could do this and be interactive with this poem. So we have workshop for that. I am also excited for my basically unessays, as you may call it. They're creative projects for finals for like two of my classes, feminist lit. And by the way, feminist lit was advertised as the bad girls of literature. It specifically said Katniss on it. We are not studying Katniss or Hunger Games. It was false advertising. It worked.
Okay.
And then for Milton Lit, I have this essay, which is creative project. So I have decided for like all my finals, I'm gonna write a poem in response to both Paradise Lost and another text. Paradise Lost, guess what, is a poem. And Milton hates rhyme schemes.
Oh, I love it. Hey y'all, thanks for listening. This is part one of a three-part series exploring how the current pandemic has impacted seniors on the last leg of their college experience. We have two more parts coming out soon, so if you like it, stay tuned. Leave a like. Love to hear what y'all think. Have a great night. Peace.